Hi, Jerry Tachoir again with Mallet tip number 7. This time we're going to talk about recording. Recording the vibraphone seems to be one of the hardest things for a number of reasons. One, most engineers have no idea how to record this instrument. I'll show up at a recording studio and the first thing they'll do is look at it, and they'll take microphones and they'll stick them underneath, figuring that these resonators, that the sound goes down there and that's where they should mic it. As you know, these resonators are capped so that the sound actually goes into the resonator and then basically comes straight up. So we need to inform in a kind way these people that we have to mic from the top. Generally, I use nice condenser microphones. There's a number of them by some great companies. I have an endorsement with Audio-Technica, and I use their microphones a lot, and they seem to do a really fine job. But the rule of thumb, and this is again a rule of thumb that applies, and it has been tested for a simple reason that if you don't apply this rule, you will get cross fading of sounds where they'll basically mask each other and they won't sound proper, and this is regarding stereo miking. But the rule is that the distance that the microphone is from your instrument, so in other words, say we're miking at a foot away, then the other microphone needs to be 3 times that away from this original microphone. So if this is a foot, then the 2 microphones need to be separated by 3 feet. And vice versa. The higher you go, the wider they need to be. And again, you'll hear it. If you have a situation where you're recording in stereo and it's just a really nice wide sound, if you flip it over to mono, you can kind of hear the difference. So make sure that you're kind of following this rule. And it's real important. The other thing is pickups versus microphones. I have tried both. For actual recording projects, I like to use microphones as much as possible. Mics give me the sound that I expect. They're just like ears sitting over the instrument, and they pick up exactly what my ears are hearing. Pickups have a sound of their own. Pickups also have an attack that I don't really care for that much. You seem to hear the mallet actually hitting the bar, which then translates into the pickup and then goes into your recording console. Pickups have its advantages. If you're doing outdoor concerts where you need to be loud and you have a band surrounding you. And when you have a band, if you have microphones up here, not only are you picking up the vibraphone, but you're also picking up the band as well. So it's kind of a balance of like how loud can you get before the band overpowers the vibraphone. So outdoor concerts where you need volume, the pickups seem to be a good idea. I don't like, again, recording necessarily with the pickups for the reasons that I stated earlier. There are a few people that I have talked to that they said they really like the pickups. Now I've also been an endorser of the K&K pickups, and I have a set of their pickups that I use occasionally, again, primarily outdoor functions. But there have been some people that said they like actually recording with them because they said they can play a little bit softer and know that every note that they hit is actually going into the pickups and being recorded. Again, a personal thing. You have to figure out what kind of sound you're looking for and adapt. Other issues regarding microphones, or actually any kind of recording of the vibraphone, is the concept of transients. Back when I first started recording in the analog world, in other words, tape, I remember going into the control room and listening back, and I was hearing a wax paperish sound. And I remember saying to the engineer, I said, I'm hearing this distortion of the vibraphone. And his response to me was, well, no, the meters, there's no distortion. The meters are barely moving. They're not hitting anywhere near 0, which would be tape saturation, which would be distortion. And I says, no, listen to your ears. I'm hearing this wax papery vibraphone sound that just didn't sound great. And so I would have them back the levels down. And again, sometimes engineers are very much mathematical. I mean, they're by the book, and the book says, you know, you want to get peak meters and things like that. But the fact is, as a musician, I use my ears, and I use my ears to trust my ears. I want to hear the sound that I'm expecting to hear, and if it's being changed in any way electronically, we have to figure out why and deal with it. So these transients, what they are, is in addition to the frequency of the bar, they're very high-end upper sounds that maybe our ears, which only perfect ears only could go to like 20K. Maybe our ears can't hear it per se, but it saturates tape. So even though the meters are looking like, everything is good, they are not fast enough to pick up these high-end transients that are oversaturating tape and causing distortion. Now, in the digital world, it's a little bit easier to record vibraphone for the simple reason that it caps off at 20 kilohertz. So in other words, nothing above 20K gets recorded. So there you have kind of an advantage, but you still can distort vibraphone recordings with the transients if you're not careful. The average hearing is nowhere near perfect. Perfect hearing is something like 20K to 20 kilohertz. And the average human being just doesn't have that. I mean, that would be a perfect hearing situation. The average person doesn't hear that well. So we have to trust our ears when we're in a studio to listen to these transients and understand the difference. Now, a lot of people say, well, analog is so much warmer in sound and it sounds just better in terms of thicker and quality. And I just find vibraphone records very well in the digital spectrum, and I really like the fact that, you know, above 20K there's no information being recorded, and so I don't really have to deal with the transients about as much. Now, the marimba records well pretty much all the time. In the analog world, I never had a problem recording marimba. It just seems that it doesn't have, again, those upper high-end metallic transients that the vibes have. So it recorded very well in both the analog world and the digital world. I prefer, right now, 2018, I like digital. I mean, I just find digital just seems to work with me. I like the fact that it's clean. I like the fact that I hear no tape hiss whatsoever, and I just don't like any kind of miscellaneous noise. So these are issues in the recording world that we have to deal with. And in a past tip, I talked about having an instrument recording ready, and that's something that you need to also deal with. So you might want to go back and listen to that tip. But I talked about miscellaneous noises on vibraphones and things like that that we have to deal with. A lot of people have saying that they get clicks where their mallets cross. And I really never have that issue, but that's something you need to be sensitive to, that if you're recording and you're hearing like clicking, whatever that sound could be, something you have to deal with. So there are problems associated with both digital and analog. There are problems associated with transients on these instruments that we have to deal with. It's predominantly in the analog world. There's issues whether we go with pickups or microphones. I prefer microphones. And then the mic placement. That's something that's real crucial to prevent the sound that's just changing when you're in, you know, from a stereo to a mono signal. And that's something we have to be real sensitive to. So anyway, this was tip number 7, and predominantly on recording, and hope you enjoy it. And stay tuned for some more tips that we'll be having soon. Thank you.